everyone. On the couch, another week in the books, and we are on the cusp of finals. And finally, the band is back together after some international travel. A few weeks off, Jordan Lewis, Nathan Buckley, and a man who we haven't seen for 2 weeks, the great Jonathan Brown. Brownie, I heard you've been in Vegas, and the whispers are you've been over there filming The Hangover 4. Can you confirm these rumours?
Well, I can't. I was pretty much the hangover without the tattoo on the face, thank God, when I woke up. But unbelievably, on the way home, LAX airport in the Qantas Lounge.
Over there for the Tim Tszyu fight? For
the Tim Tszyu fight. Unfortunately, our man went down, but it was a great trip nonetheless. And on the big screen, in the Qantas Lounge, on the couch, you three knuckleheads. I'm not seeing. I'm going, geez, I thought Mike was dead. What's going on, mate? No agenda setters, no classifieds, no footy furnace, not even AFL 360 on the couch. So, boys, you've officially made it.
Mike won't be happy with that. He was precious. He won't be happy with that comment.
How was he? How were the old boys?
It was fantastic. Him and Lee having Lee on 2 weeks ago. We had Mike for 2 weeks, which was fantastic. And I mentioned we are on the cusp of finals, boys, but the weekend of footy, and it was the 6th worst weekend in footy in terms of average margins. We were starved of good footy. We got one good game, but the ladder, 2 good games. But the ladder is looking like this. And at the moment, there is probably only 4 sides that you think are safe in playing finals. And surprisingly, all final 8 positions are up for grabs. We don't know who's going to finish first. The top 4's got a fascinating look about it.
Yeah, they all won. They didn't do themselves... they certainly didn't knock themselves around their chances, did they? They all won. All the teams that had to win, they did win. So they kept their seasons alive in the top 8 sides. But it's such a discrepancy between the top 9 and the bottom 9. You just need to go to look at the AFL website. The last 5 weeks of form line, it's a lot of green for the top 9 and a lot of red for the bottom line, and that's been the issue. But it's going to be a great race for that final spot.
And the haves and the have-nots at the moment. And it probably reminds us of how difficult it is when you know your season is over, you can't play finals. You go through that adjustment period. We'll have a look at it, the Essendon and the North Melbourne sides, how many young, inexperienced players are playing in big batches. And that's why you get the discrepancy in the scoreboard, because there's, the talent on the field is so disparate.
Does it pose a bigger issue, do you think? Like, I watched the weekend and I couldn't help to think that the lack of talent that's being spread across, we've had 2 expansion sides in the Gold Coast Suns and the Giants. Now, they're finally coming good, and you might not like this, but Tasmania, I understand the reasons why, but is this just going to be par for the course of... There are going to be 6, 7 sides every single year that are non-competitive, and for a long time.
I don't think it's a lack of talent per se, but it's because on an AFL list you need to be ready for the now, and the bottom third of your list is trying to prepare for 5 years down the track. When that bottom third gets exposed, that's when you see that apparent lack of talent. Because there are 24, 25-year-olds in the country that would perform better than some of the 18, 19-year-olds that are there, but they're 2 or 3 or 4 years away from becoming who they're going to become. So we are both a high-performance sport and a development sport at the same time, and that doesn't happen very many other places in the world.
A fascinating watch for the back part of the season is it looks like someone is going to win 15 games and finish 9th and miss finals.
Well, if Giants win this weekend, it makes it a little bit more predictable to keep the Dogs down outside the 8. Yeah, that's going to be a big task.
Big start to the week.
Let's talk about one of the good games from the weekend. It was the Miracle at Marvel. And what an incredible finish. And there is 2 different lenses to look at this. Let's go down the St Kilda path early. And it was an incredible finish, and it is literally a miracle.
Well, it is. I mean, anyone watching that game, I had the game at the MCG, so got back home to watch the second half, and I was sitting with a few Melbourne supporters, so that was quite an enjoyable watch. But I think you're right. It was the tale of 2 halves, and from a historical point of view, it was the biggest comeback ever by a side at a 3/4 time margin. So the way that they did it was extraordinary in terms of the positions that the players played, and we'll speak about the wings. The wings got dragged out right from the start to create midfield space. They're the numbers, and they're the indication of why they were able to win. But I thought it was a side that needed signs early, and in my opinion, Melbourne aided that by the decisions that they were making. Cozzy Pickett coming in back into the corridor, turnover, goal. Jack Viney coming back into the corridor, turnover, goal. So they were aided by Melbourne, but boy, that was an exciting fourth quarter of footy.
The Saints just Well, they looked like a Ross Lyons Saints in the first three quarters, and Ross Lyons been a slow defensive coach, and then all of a sudden the shackles were broken free, and we were all living in Isaiah's world.
Well, he keeps increasing his value and probably the importance to St Kilda's football club. But this is just a bit of an example, and this is not typical of St Kilda. Certainly wasn't in the first half, but the players that were setting themselves up for transition didn't get sucked over to the contest, which meant they could fill all those lanes that you see across the ground. And once you get the ball in the middle, and especially in the hands of Nasaya, you can make options. Do you go the other side or do you go skinny side? So all these plays require a little bit of luck, whether that's finishing, whether that's skill execution, whatever it might be. But they set themselves up in a way that allowed them to attack and became unpredictable.
Why does it have to take for St Kilda, who... we've bemoaned them this year that their offence hasn't been up to AFL standard, or hasn't been modern offence. Why does it take being 45 points down at three-quarter time in round 20 to finally see this?
It's a good question. I think there was a game early on in the year where... Geelong game, where I sat here, I said, if they can play like that all season, they will be a destination club. And we haven't seen it up until then. So I think the question is always, why don't they do that more often? And sometimes you get a little bit of evidence to say... one, positional changes. Like, why do we have to have the wings, right sort of parallel to the centre backs? Why don't we challenge the opposition and see...
We've thrown up having two wings on one side even.
And see what they do, and then really challenge the opposition.
But the mentality of having nothing to lose too. That frees players up, doesn't it? Naturally, you get into that situation, 46 points down. You don't think you're going to win, so I'll just have a crack at it. And you've got Nas, who could become one of the greatest St Kilda players of all time if they can sign him. But it was a bit like the Michael Jordan days, wasn't it? Just getting into the hands of your best player, which doesn't happen a huge amount in our game. There's 18 players out there. It's hard for one player to influence a game so much in a small matter of time, and that's clearly what we saw.
So off the back of Wanganeen Miller, performing really well, and you've got to give a shout-out to Chris Tolcho, who sadly passed away, who was the one at St Kilda to pick that. I wonder how he fared in that draft. Like, where was he picked? It's not until you actually punch in the draft. Now, I'd like your opinion, and Bucks, your opinion. I mean, could that draft be better than what we know as the Super Draft?
Well, have a look at those names. I mean, there's a couple that are still yet to come through. Gibcus has obviously had a lot of injuries. Erasmus is a player who I think has been on the cusp for Fremantle but has been unable to break through. But the others, I mean, have a look at the top end there. What I want to know is whether the recruiting fraternity went into 21 saying it's not a very good draft, like just to play their picks down. Well, they don't have to, because you look in retrospect, that's a super.
Well, they're all cult figures. Mac Andrews is a cult figure on the Gold Coast. All the kids want selfies with him, but they are household names, those top six especially.
So does it help or hinder St Kilda with the way Isaiah Wanganeen Miller is playing him now? Because his price is increasing. We are at round 20. He is unsigned. I mean, usually when we get to this position and someone is unsigned, it's trending to they're going to be leaving. They're in the Tom De Koning race. They are the only side that is going for Tom De Koning at $1.8 million.
I think with Nasai, because he's young, he's going to get paid well wherever he goes. I think there has to be more to his decision rather than...
So it's not money?
Than purely just money. He's going to get paid and paid well. So these types of wins help. The environment helps to keep a player to stay at your football club. The other thing, just to finish off that game, I couldn't help... If St Kilda weren't able to win, you look, Nasai stuck at full forward. Now, it turned out to be a great decision, but I couldn't help to watch that game back and go, wow, why isn't Nasai around the ball?
I don't know if he's stuck. He probably put himself there. But
it's decisions.
St Kilda get beaten by 10 goals, or they have a performance like that. They have a performance like that, and he shares those emotions with the teammates he's playing with at the moment. That weds him more to the club than a loss does.
That's going to be... I think the St Kilda fans watch more than anything, and the thing they want more than anything is obviously that signature with Isaiah.
Well, you can see why.
Let's look at the other side of things, and I've been involved in a performance like this. I think Gerard Healy described it as the worst 90 seconds in football. Richmond v Gold Coast in Cairns, where Carmichael Hunt kicked the winner. This would have to go close to nearly the worst quarter in football from a Melbourne point of view, Bucks.
Yeah, well, you sort of talk about fight or flight. Well, there's another one, and that's freeze. And that's pretty much what Melbourne did. Yeah. Like, they were frozen, especially as the longer that quarter went on, and in particular in that last...
The longer that minute went on.
That last 60 seconds, yeah. Well, let's have a look at that now. And in the end, you've got to work out, all right, they've already given a warning away. So this is how they got their 7th. Sparrow was pushed forward, and Viney actually ran out of the middle to the other wing, to the free wing. Gawn and Bowie, we saw that play out. I wonder if Gawn could have sent Bowie into the centre.
To ruck?
Not to ruck, just to be the 4th player in there. We needed Viney to come back on Caminiti. Sparrow comes in here late and sits about 5 metres off Marshall when eventually the free kick is paid. So that the umpire can give it then. Sparrow needs to push up then and just stand on that mark and take Marshall's space away. Caminiti's now goal side of Viney. Bowie's looking the wrong way. Wanganeen Miller drops into that space.
A set play too.
There's about a dozen things that Melbourne needed to get wrong. If they got one of them right, they probably stopped that bit of play. There's about a dozen things that St Kilda needed to get right, and if they got one of them wrong, they wouldn't have been able to finish that play. So it was a 1 in 10,000, and they were able to execute it, and Melbourne weren't.
Who's responsible for this then?
I don't think there would be any club in this competition that would have said, let's practice giving a 666 infraction away when the scores are level with 8 seconds left. So let's put that on the table. But they should have either gone in to save the game or win the game, which is a centre bounce.
They can't go in to win the game because they've got a free kick against. So to save the game, they let Isaiah Wanganeen run free. Surely he's the first player man up.
Even before that, they couldn't even get. They've got a midfielder on the wing, they've got a defender they've got a defender who goes into the forward line in the front 7. It was a mess. So it's a little bit of preparation before the game, but it's a lot of on-field leadership as well.
They were frozen by the situation.
Correct.
And as the minute went on, it's hard to believe it went for a minute from the time the umpire called it, the infraction, to the time that Rowan Marshall kicked the ball was a minute. And look at all those senior players that were in there. The amount of Melbourne senior players that were around there and allowed that to unfold. Clearly, though, St Kilda had practiced it. If there's a 666 infraction against, that was a set play. There's no way knowing that was just drawn up in the sandpit.
But that wasn't about the 666 infraction as such. Like Caminiti, who had obviously knew exactly what was required of him. I'm going to go as deep as I can forward, and they've been doing that for most of the last quarter. I'm going to go wide to try and open it up, which is exactly what they did. I'm going to back over that Gawn-Bowie one again. Just because it's not written in the rules that the same forward need to go back in. So right here, Gawn he's run back before the umpire asked him to go back up or asked the field to be reset 666. What if Max Gawn, as the competitor, sees a bit of grey area and says to Jack Bowie, you go up because I'm going to sit him behind the ball as a 6th defender. And then Bowie goes up as one of the 4 in the centre bounce. Force the umpire to make a decision. There's nothing in the rules that says that it needs to be the same 4.
Really? So what happens? So what would happen then in your mind?
Well, what would happen then is the umpire would either say, well, that fails a sniff test or it doesn't, because there's no rule to say that Max needs to go back up. So the ump would either say...
I would have loved a standoff.
The ump would either say, no, you need to come back. And Max, the last thing he would want to give away is a 50-metre penalty, so he would end up coming back up. Because you don't obey the umpire in the moment. He can pay a 50. But it would have been interesting if Max had gone, nah, I know this is where the ball's coming, I'm staying here. And there's plenty going on. You 6th defender, you go up and be the 4th in the centre bounce. I'm sitting in the.
So hypothetically, Max has to go back into the centre bounce. Where should he have stood?
No, not hypothetically. You have to reset the field. So there needs to be 6 forwards, 2 wingers, 4 mids, and 6
But he
backs.
went back to the centre circle, though. Where should he have stood?
He could have stood one step into the centre square, which would have had him 20 metres closer to where he wanted to get to, because he was never getting back there.
Even though he was the ruckman, though, because the ruckman have to stand inside the big circle.
No, I don't think
he could have swapped.
There's nothing to say that you need to be back in the little circle.
Right.
So this doesn't happen with Collingwood, though. This doesn't, let's talk about the last quarter. This doesn't happen with Collingwood. You've got Gawn, Petrarca, Oliver.
Pickett.
They're 3 of your most important leaders at your football club.
Oliver's on the bench.
And this happened. Pickett's on the bench in the last 3 minutes as well. Where does the responsibility lie?
Oh, for me, with the leaders, you're elected into those positions to be able to carry out instructions and game feel on the ground, because we know that it's hard to get a message out. So I think, upon reflection, the leaders would have had I would imagine, a really robust conversation today. Not around that and around that particular incident, but the whole 4th quarter. I thought there was decisions after decisions by Viney, Petrarca and even Oliver that weren't decisions a 200-game leader of a football club should have been making. Where the way you move the ball, the way you set up at stoppages, everything.
That's the on-field stuff. And I think Melbourne's want to move the ball more expansively over the last 8 to 10 weeks had pushed them to actually play in a more aggressive way in the last quarter, which fed St Kilda's. But the other one, the rotations must have got messed up because you didn't have the right balance of players, the right 18 on the field to be able to get it right. And that sent the leaders into a situation that they probably don't always deal with.
Yeah, and I would be more as disappointed about from Simon Goodwin. I think as senior players too, you need to have an awareness of the game and what players from the opposition are getting on top of you.
Absolutely.
So you would have had the crosshairs on Nas. You know, for that centre bounce, you know, he's completely dominating the game. He's got St Kilda back into it. For that last kick inside 50, surely there's at least one player, probably two players on him, because you're thinking, who's going to take it away from us? More than likely this guy.
Well, the ramifications are big in the footy world when you have a loss like this. We cross to John Ralph. Ralphie, where does this leave Coach Simon Goodwin and his future?
Well, there was a real mood for change amongst some influential board members and senior members of this club, even before the catastrophic events of last night. So Simon Goodwin appeared before the board at the MCG today. You would imagine to explain not only last night, but also his vision for the future. He's a contracted coach. He has a guaranteed contract for next year. Paul Guerra, the incoming CEO, who comes in on September 8, is a strong supporter. But otherwise, board members are restless, so are influential members at the club. The prevailing view is that if we're considering change across everything, maybe the football boss, all of the other levels of this football club, then we certainly need to consider his position. It's not all on Goodwin. The big move, Troy Chaplin from defence into attack, has meant the defence is now broken. Players are confused about their roles. The most miserly defence in footy is now ranked 15th. Now, Simon Goodwin has said Fritsch and Lever are going nowhere. Neither is Clayton Oliver. After all that speculation, he does not have one suitor out there right now, given a deal that hits $1.7 million in a couple of years. So he will be at that football club. So Goodwin's safe for now. But, of course, losses to St Kilda, to Carlton, they lose to the Eagles again. That pressure mounts on Simon Goodwin despite that premiership of 2021.
And, Ralphie, they fronted the appeals board with the Stephen May bump 3 matches. What did the appeal board come up with?
Well, it took only 15 minutes of deliberation for that appeal to be thrown out. So Stephen May will serve the last 2 games of that 3-week suspension. His advocate, Jack Rush, said the tribunal abandoned common sense in suggesting May performed unreasonably. But the AFL's advocate, Nick Payne, said you had a 3-hour case, you prosecuted it well. Unfortunately, you didn't get up the first time. So he is suspended for 3 weeks. John Brown, where does it leave us now with these kind of collisions?
Well, I was surprised he didn't get off. I just think we've got an unreasonable expectation on players in relation to how quick the game is now. It's almost unrecognisable to when I started 25 years ago. The speed of the game is amazing, and it's really difficult for these players to react, how clever they are because of the speed of the game. We judge them in slow motion, don't we? Unfairly, I think. We know it's part of the process, but I just think we need to understand how quick this game is and how hard it is.
And Ralphie, superstar Eagle Harley Reed, the price has been set on his head for the next decade.
That's right. So West Coast has a $24 million decision to make on Harley Reed. He will sign in a heartbeat if they accept his counter-offer, which is 2 years to 2027 and then a 9-year contract extension. So in all, about $24 million over 11 years. He will not sign a 2-year deal at West Coast. He would ask for a trade. I think his view is there is guaranteed money in Victoria, and if he only signed for 2 years, he'd be passing that up. He's not prepared to do it. So he's aware that this salary cap goes up in 37% over the next 5 years. It is a massive decision for West Coast. Back him in as a generational player or realise that he will ask for a trade at the end of the season. Guys, what would you do if you're West Coast?
Oh, well, $24 million. That is a lot of money to be paying one player over 11 years. And it's back-ended bucks as well.
Yeah, I wonder why he'd be signing in a heartbeat.
Well, would you sign him?
Look, I personally don't think that is a decision that West Coast should make. If you're being held to ransom in some shape or form by this player for that amount of money, I think that means you're probably going to get 2 or 3 first rounders back. Maybe that depth is going to be better for you than a Harley Reed.
Don't you want players though? As Craig said, give me players.
Yeah, 3 of them.
Is there enough evidence?
Well, we just had a look at the picks.
We've just spoken about the dearth of talent.
No, we just had a look at the 11 picks from 2021. If you had 3 of those, you'd be pretty happy, wouldn't you? The other piece to this is, and I don't have the answer to this, in terms of not in terms of talent, but in terms of culture, in terms of character. Is Harley Reed the character that you want to build this club around? Because if he is, absolutely offer him that.
Is there enough evidence to suggest he's the character?
I've
He's had
got no
one
idea.
pre-season, and by all reports has come back in shape that isn't of an AFL standard. We constantly have conversations about him being hot-headed, and the caveat is that he is young and learning. Are you willing to risk $24 million on that?
Didn't we have the same conversation about Luke Hodge? Might become a legend of the Hall.
Well, I didn't.
And Jason
But did we have the same
Jason
conversation about Luke Hodge? Can you see Harley Reed turning into Luke Hodge?
Well, to me, he looks like he's a competitor like Hodgie. Now, and he looks to me like he has a thirst for the contest. Whether he's got the same leadership qualities, that's going to be hard level to reach. But to me, you can't lose these generational players. And clearly, he was the best player. And I think with the benefit of time, with some maturity, he'll learn to become a professional with all the pressure that's going to be steeped on him.
So you would say yes?
Absolutely. I wouldn't be letting a player of this quality leave because he's going to come back to hurt you, I believe. And I think players mature at different levels. All these players, just because they're professionally paid, doesn't mean they're professionals at the age of 18.
I mean, that's the hardest thing, isn't it? How many players do we see come into the system now who are ready to go, who are chiselled, who are ready to go? They speak really well, no indiscretions. We love those players. I think there's a soft spot for me as well for players like Harley, and I'm a little bit like you. And the money will sort itself out. But he is a player that we will think will be generational. I'd be staggered if they lost him.
The biggest price tag of all time in the AFL. We'll be looking at that one. Next up, we're going to talk about the Giants and the Swans and the Battle of the Bridge. Toby Green, you couldn't miss it. He spoke to our Ben Dixon at halftime and had this to say about Tom Papley.
Tom Papley's got a little bit to say in the first half, just there. A little bit of feeling in this one.
Yeah, he's looking overweight. We'll see how he goes second half.
All right, mate, good luck.
Looking overweight, but nothing to see here, John Brown. Nothing to see here.
Promoter's dream. Promoter's dream. Saying Greg Swan, a bit of common sense prevails. Probably Swanee's first decision in his new job is nothing to see here with Toby Green. Great for the game. And because he didn't start it. It was Tom Papley that actually started at 15.
Surprise.
That's right, with Jake Stringer with the little signal to him. So, and then I'm reliably informed Toby straight after that copped the biggest spray of all time from his coach and responded, not because of what he said, but because of some of his actions in the first half. He responded and his team responded with 9 goals in the third quarter. It's the most powerful football I've seen for the season against a decent opposition. I know we had Nasser's last quarter, but that sort of football, so their best is the best. I said that about Brisbane last year. Their best is the best. So if they can replicate it the most throughout the season, they'll be holding the Premiership Cup up at the end of the year.
The reason they can win it is Aaron Cadman's development, the addition of Jake Stringer and the way Finn Callaghan has come on as a player. The reason they can lose it, though, is if they don't make top 4. Out in straight sets last year, and that will be on Adam Kingsley's mind and every single player for the GWS Giants as they come into September.
I think that would be surprising for a lot of people watching at home. It was surprising for me when I saw it, third highest rated player in the last 6 weeks. I think that Mike, when he was here, his favourite player is Finn Callaghan, and you can see why.
Loves Finn.
He's
the footy world understands now why St Kilda are offering him the truckload.
Yeah.
He's just amazing. I love him the way he straightens up too. So they've got the run home there. Very winnable games, clearly. I can't wait for that big game between the expansion clubs. Both seasons riding on the line at People's First Stadium there in 3 weeks' time.
That's only one of them can finish top 4.
Yeah, it could be the top 4 battle.
Yeah, it could be. It really could be.
Well, let's talk about the Q Clash, the other game from Saturday between the little brother and the big brother. And after being beaten up in round 7, Brownie, the little brother got a bit of revenge on the weekend.
Yeah, that's right. They turned from Vealers into Bulls. And that was really important because look at that, 84 points from stoppage against Brisbane. It was unbelievable. It was hard to watch as a Brisbane supporter, but as a guy that lives on the Gold Coast, great for Gold Coast footy. The crowd was magnificent, but it was a mauling, and they got the monkey off the back because they had been mauled by that Brisbane Lions midfield. Matty Riewoldt was just unbelievable, and he went to school on what Josh Dunkley done him and the rest of the Lions midfield. And Geordie, you can talk a bit more to, and so can you, Bucks. Previously, Dunkley had blocked his run to the ball, which Dunkley does a lot. He's a magnificent player for Brisbane, but you know, in the early game in the year, he only had 16 disposals, had no impact on the game, one clearance, I think it was. He went to work during the week. This shows the calibre as a professional. Starts more side-on, doesn't allow Dunkley to block his run. Starts going to different opposition as well, Geordie.
Yeah, I think it's a great sign of maturity. How many times did you see him in the centre bounce start on the circle so Dunkley couldn't get in front and then even go to other players and be on the move? I think the greatest challenge for players, and I certainly found it when I was tagging players, is players that stay on the move are hard to get a read on, and players that learn from their mistakes of the past and positional changes in which Rouse. So sometimes he flipped to Lachie Neale, which then got him a bit of separation from Josh Dunkley. But the thing that I loved is he never gave front position to Josh Dunkley.
And this is a little bit about what we're talking about. Like Rouse fantastic, but he's learnt, you know, in that time, and you know, notoriously got the notebook and he's a footy nut. So every experience he has, he's going to take something from. That's probably the question about, you know, you say Harley Reed, you got him for a couple of years. What type of character is he in terms of his footy, in terms of his willingness to learn and develop? How quickly is he going to take that on board? They're decisions that West Coast would have to make. But Gold Coast knew that they've got this bloke who's just a footy head that's going to improve as he goes along.
The first player there we go. You saw that graphic down the bottom. That was the triple-double. That's only triple-double ever. So it's a great performance.
Well, we hope he's plying his trade in September, and only a month away from finals. We're going to pick through the warts of the contenders. Why can't they win it, and what do they need to fix in the next month of footy? That's up next on The Couch.
Did I hear right that it was the highest rated game of any player this year? Metres gained, scoreboard impact. That's pretty high praise, isn't it?
Onto the boot, in a flash. A lovely finish. Meyer check through the middle to Nick Daicos. A little bit of a fake. Then he loads up vacant goal square. That is class. Into Nick Daicos. Onto the left. He rolls. Unmistakably, unforgettably, Nick Daicos. Like shelling peas for the champ.
Yes, Fly, you did hear correctly. It was the best rated performance for season 2025. It was the best rated performance by a Collingwood player ever, and it is the 14th best rated game of all time. The little champ was at his best on a Sunday afternoon against an arch rival in a big win for the Pies. Boys, can he win the Brownlow, or is he destined to win the Brownlow this year?
Well, he's definitely put himself in the mix, isn't he? He's averaged 35 touches and a goal in the 6 games since their bye. And hitting the scoreboard makes a little bit of a difference. Touches are great, but hitting the scoreboard
He
makes
looks a bit sore a fortnight ago against Gold Coast. You're just wondering how he's going to finish the year, but geez.
He's playing well if you saw.
I think he's got it in the pocket already. Yeah. He's got it in the pocket.
He's got a good mix though, doesn't he? Like, you know, where in terms of midfield, a little bit of half-back, a little bit of forward. It's the inside-outside balance with his game.
Would it come into thinking with your player management, if Collingwood knows you're going to finish top
filthy.
2, would it come into your thinking as a coach to think, oh, we don't want to give him a week off because he might take away the Brownlow?
Not this late. Not this late because you've got the week leading into the finals, so you don't want to miss too much footy.
Yeah,
so you've got to balance that up. But one thing I think they've done well is move him from he was a genuine insider at times last year. He's just been able to play a little bit more on the fringe with Ned Long and a few others have been inside a bit more.
Well, nobody's perfect, even Nick Daicos. So we're going to take a look at the warts of the 9 teams that are contending to play finals in September in a month's time. And Geordie, let's start with the team that's on the top of the ladder, the Collingwood Football Club.
No, I mean, I see this more as an opportunity. I think these sides who will play finals, they've got a lot going on. So you've probably got the ability to hone in on something that's not going as well as you possibly would like. So for the Pies, it's points from half back, and you can see there between 0 and 15, number 2 in the competition, and now number 13. So if you're looking at anything to try and gain that little bit of an edge from what you're currently doing to when the finals come around, it's that counter-punch off half-back. I think the other interesting part to the Collingwood conversation is, and maybe I'll pose this question to you boys, is Dan Houston playing for his spot in this Collingwood finals team?
Well, looking on that, he is.
Question,
There's six to come back for Collingwood. That's the thing you've got to factor in. Out of yesterday's performance against Richmond, there's 6 certain starters. And they traded a lot to get this man. Maybe that's the big decision that's coming.
And how hard is it for a coach, knowing what you've given up, to get in, to not leave him out of what will be a finals campaign? So if you look at those, that is 6 starters.
Yep.
That you've got to fit back into the side. So there's going to be some tough decisions. I generally think he's playing for his spot in a Collingwood finals team.
The only thing there is that there's only Jeremy Howe, or Frampton as well, that are the defenders, but they're deep defenders. So they're not playing in the same role that Houston's playing in.
Could be one of the big calls coming into September. I'm looking at the Lions, sitting second on the ladder at the moment.
Mate, you love the Lions.
I love the Lions. I love the Lions.
Just waiting for a loss and you just go whack. The baseball bat comes out.
Jonathan, it is their midfield. They are the premiers.
What's wrong
they
with
come
the
under the
midfield?
biggest microscope. Their midfield, 84 points on the weekend against the Gold Coast Suns. But if you look at the last 6 rounds here, and they are some damning numbers for a very good midfield. And in particular...
A couple of warts. Jeez,
in
warts
particular,
everywhere.
the rucks, Brownie.
Yeah.
The rucks, they were smacked by Jerry
look,
Wicks on
I
the
think
weekend.
it's the last time you'll see 2 rucks. So Ford and McInerney's not working. McInerney's clearly sore. So I think Sam Day played reserves. I think he'll come back in as the backup ruckman / forward at Joe Danaher role. So there'll be a bit of a change in mix. Whether they bring in Kadeen Coleman as well, but purely on that stoppage stuff, they've got to get to work.
They need to get to work.
Yeah.
Well, the side that smashed them on the weekend, the Gold Coast Suns, the only wart that I could find for them is their turnover scoring. And they were smashing it out of the park early, half-backs running hard and being able to score, especially from back half. They haven't been as strong with that in the last couple of months. But if you're scoring 84 points from clearance, you're probably not going to be sort of pressured to turnover score as much. But as we know, that back half scoring in particular is a model that the premiership sides have been able to action well.
Daniel Riewoldt will watch on that as well, on the return of Riewoldt.
Yeah, the Crows for me. So look, they've been magnificent, haven't they? They've got a buck history though. No group's ever gone straight into a final series and won a grand final. A group that hasn't been there before, but especially over the last few years, they've just got to fix up this part of their game. Still more question mark the depth of midfield. Look at Dawson, their rankings. So he's 54th in the competition. Then Peatling's 240, Berry 130. Pedler doesn't even qualify because he's only played the last 2. Now Curtin's
in there?
Soligo there as well. So now I know they're supported by the outsiders. You just wonder that midfield, how their depth holds up. So they've got to fix that part of the game.
Yeah, I think for the opportunity for Fremantle is their post-clearance stuff. So once the clearance leaves the sort of the 10 to 20 metre bubble that you need to get over to, Hayden Young, I think, helps this. Switkowski back helps this. So the contested possessions and the ground ball gets post-clearance, I think, is a real opportunity for them.
I've got another midfield in the gun and the Warts at the moment. The return of Will Day helps for the Hawthorn midfield, but at the moment, their numbers in terms of first possession clearance and centre clearances have not been up to standard, and we're not up to standard on the weekend, and that was with Will Day in the side. I think the fascinating watch over the back part of the year is Mabior Chol. He would be their preferred forward ruck option, but at the moment finds himself out of the side. Cal Shadir performed well the other night. Mitch Lewis gives them a different look ahead of the ball, a bigger key forward, which Chol doesn't give them.
Chol back in?
And Jack Gunson, I think Chol misses out. I think they go with the 3 they had on the weekend.
I think so, I agree.
The Giants' warts like right on the end of their nose, and they've been living with it,
spot,
living with it, and everyone's known about it, but
Right
they've
on
still been able to perform through it, and that is how many inside 50s against. I think I've been banging on about this for a while. And just to give that much weight of field position away, I don't know whether that's sustainable. Having said that, 17 insides in the second half they gave Sydney, which was their best return for a half for the year. 21 against West Coast was their previous best. And that sort of footy was based on go-forward footy. The tsunami doesn't matter because they were able to come out, hold field position and lock the ball in the front half. So if they continue to show that string to their bow, well then they'll cut that water off.
It's a bit of that mentality, give a bit to get a lot. They're back there, gun mids in the Bulldogs for me. So just defensively, against the best teams, the last 4 times since round 11, Geelong round 11, round 13 Hawthorn, round 18 Adelaide and round 19 Brisbane. They've clearly been beaten in the turnover game. So defensive wise, just wonder the inexperienced O'Donnell, Bustlinger and Cleary, inexperienced defenders there in their back six. So that's going to be a watch for the Dogs if they go all the way.
They need to perform against the top 8 side.
Yeah, and the last one, the Geelong defending ball movement, so half back to score. Against the top 9 sides, they're the worst side in the competition from defending that. So once again, the opportunity. So you like to think of it as warts, what's going wrong with their game?
I'm taking the positive lens on it.
I like to think of it as this is the opportunity for these sides to maybe hone in a little bit on these actions, can get them the edge to hopefully take them to a premiership glory.
Well, you speak about opportunity, and that is exactly what North Melbourne had on the weekend against Geelong, to play against a very good side and put up a good performance, and we got the complete opposite. We got a team that got beat by 100 points. The first team, I know it happened about half an hour later, another team was beat close to 100, but the first team to get beat by 100, and the Roos were absolutely smacked at Marvel Stadium.
Yeah, their pressure was actually pretty good, but in the end, they
would want to be. They didn't have the ball.
Well, they did, Jack. And have a look at this. This is what happened all night. What we actually saw was Geelong being able to pressure the ball out of North Melbourne's hands. So if we stop at about here, there's 6 or 7 North Melbourne players and about 4 cats. But that handball was a hospital handball. Then a fumble when you're out there to Dersma, but then you got a third crack at it and you miss that handball again, and all of a sudden the Cats are just on the loose ball. They go from the inside to the outside with 2 clean disposals and find a forward target. So North still had plenty of opportunities, but they could not handle that little circle and put each other in time and space, and that is a basic of the game. If you can't do that, well, you can't move the ball. If you can't move the ball, you can't win. So that's what we saw for 4 quarters.
Do you think that work rate's good enough from North Melbourne? I know you highlight the numbers, but every single one of those players is offensive side.
Well,
is that just like that? Are they 10 metres away from just getting back and actually doing the real defensive running to get back and get behind the ball? There's 3 Geelong players free ahead of the ball.
So there's 2. There's the ball. There's the person who actually owns the ball, who needs potential options. Now, Logue had a couple of cracks there to find a better option, couldn't do it. But his teammates could have helped him by giving him a few more. But to be honest, I would be sitting off the ball thinking that's definitely going to that player, and then I'm the next one, and then I'm out. And reading that play is something the Cats and the good teams do really well, from the inside to out, and North are struggling with it. So did on the weekend.
We're 3 years into the Alistair Clarkson reign at North Melbourne. Have we seen any improvement or enough improvement, or where does it sit under Clarko?
The short answer is no, and it's not a humorous conversation, because I think North Melbourne supporters, and you hear Kingy speak about this all the time. You do need to see green shoots. You do need to see a mode in which they play, and there was probably a period this year that we could see, when they went over to the West and they started to play some OK football. Yeah, that's their identity. Now the challenge with young side is to always, as the season progresses, to not fatigue and not going back into skill execution areas, which forces you to play a messy game. You take a big risk when you get, a premiership coach down who's on a lot of money, and it might neglect other parts of your program. But listening to Alistair speak, they seem to understand where they're at. We can't see it. I think their acquisitions in terms of the senior players probably haven't added as much or what they would have hoped for.
If they think they know where they're at, they probably would have forecast ahead to go, this is where we're going to be. Why would they trade their first round pick, which is looking like pick 3, maybe pick 2 this year? There's a big game against Richmond that will decide where their pick lands. They've traded that away to the Tigers for a late first round or early second last year.
That doesn't make sense. And I know Clarko referenced the Luke Bruce one at Hawthorn, which was a rookie pick, so you don't give up much there.
And at Hawthorn.
They've given away. To win that game late 2 years ago, to not get Harley Reed looks like a silly decision as well. So there's probably things that have gone on, a couple of decisions that have really hampered their improvement. But I still think the acquisitions in terms of the senior players haven't helped as much as they would have thought.
The thing you want to go to the footy as a supporter is you need his hope, don't you? So St Kilda supporters walk away last night with hope because they see Nas. You walk in as a North Melbourne supporter and you just go, where's the hope? Wardlaw definitely stands out, but he's got concussion issues. You know, I know Sheasel and McKercher have been there, but they just lack a bit of that for me at the moment. So it's certainly going to be a challenging 12 months.
Especially
for Clark.
late in the season, isn't it? Like how much does winning late in the season, one, give the fans hope, but two, give the players positive energy coming towards
Well,
the
they do have a
pre-season?
chance to do that. Round 23, they play Richmond at Blunston Arena. It's time to take a break, but up after this, we're going to look at the good, the bad and the ugly from this round. Good to see order has been restored in the graphics department, and I am back to the good. And my good is primetime footy. We've been starved of primetime footy on Thursday, Friday and Saturday nights. Boys, cop this. Dogs, Giants. Look at that. That is going to be a fascinating clash. Adelaide, Hawthorn. Adelaide should have won this last time down in Tasmania.
Give us the winners.
Collingwood, Brisbane. We go Bulldogs, Crows, Lions.
Oh,
He's back on.
There you go, I'm back, Brownie. I'm back. There you go, I'm back.
He's back. My good is from the Fremantle game, Hayden Young, and haven't they welcomed him back with open arms? So 23 disposals on the weekend, 7 clearances, 3 goals, 6 inside 50s. He's a forward half player.
Subbed out halfway through the last quarter as well.
I was getting to that. It's my good, if you don't mind.
I was helping you.
So he's sensational. He's one of those players in terms of X factor coming in towards the final series. Super important.
Look at a professional in action here, Patrick Dangerfield. So all about recovery. He's gone for the souvlaki.
Look at him.
And normally I only have one of these after about a dozen beers down the pub with a garlic sauce on top, but that was after he'd been subbed out. So I think he probably knew where the camera was.
Had a great line from David
The old
Zeta.
Geelong catch.
David Zeta said Jeremy Cameron 11 snags, Patrick Dangerfield 1 souvlaki. There you go from the weekend.
Good by Zeke. Very good by Zeke.
I've got the Adelaide Crows and just their tackling effort, their strength in the contest. They had 128 tackle attempts to lay 103. And at 81%, you know, any time you're tackling over 70, it's a great achievement. But the conditions help. But Jordan Dawson, their captain, was one of the players that led the way. But they were just so strong, so tough in the conditions. If you tackle like that, you give yourself a great chance.
Oh, great to see, yeah. My bad was this umpiring free kick was puzzling, to say the least. Harry Perriman, not sure what he's going to do here. He has to stop running because the ball's going to land on his head. He got paid a free kick against there. Steely Green got the free and went back and slotted the goal. Geordie, you were doing that game.
I think it's paid to Gary Ablett Senior, that, Mark.
Yeah, it's amazing.
My bad is LDU and knowing the rules of the game. If there is a free kick paid, don't throw the ball on the ground. Like, this is early in the game. Here's another thing. Jeremy Cameron is very good at kicking goals, and for the last decade,
Really?
and especially the time he's been at Geelong, they handball it to him at every possible chance. So you can see the clock ticking here. Jeremy actually went and got the ball and then threw it over, and then he's still there. And Griffin Logue, his opponent, is standing behind the man on the mark, and that is goal number 1 of 11.
I'll just say he's very good at kicking goals.
He's very good at doing it, Brownie. Very good. He's won a Coleman and he'll win this one this year.
Very perceptive, Jack. My bad is for the Bombers. Their last 7 players on this in their 23 on the weekend had a combined total of 28 games experience. So their last 7 had only averaged four games between them, or each. And that when you've got that little experience, even in that, like a 30-year team, so it makes it very difficult to put things together. And North weren't much different with 9 players with 20 games and under.
Mine's an effort-based bad. It came from the Hawks-Carlton game, and I've seen this bloke take off. When the ball is in Carlton's hands and he takes off, he is hard to catch. I know Nick Watson is strong, but you've got to provide a better effort inside the defensive 50 like that. When the ball is in front of you, you've got a great look at it. Just a poor effort inside defensive 50.
Had this one pop up on Saturday night with Bailey Smith. Had a fan over the fence who thought that he'd get involved and wanted to have something to say. Now, Bailey's not one to back down, so he had something to say in response. And this was after the next stoppage. and they're blowing kisses to one another. But this bloke, he was looking for his 15 minutes.
Look at him. It's me. It's me. Look at me.
He's checking himself on KO.
He's looking on Tinder for Bailey.
But you know the big ugly is? The big ugly is me, giving him more airtime.
Feeding the beast,
Poor by you, mate.
Feeding the beast. Well, I've got Port Adelaide and the stand rule. We've been bemoaning the stand rule here. Port have taken it to the next level, though. Not only have they got one player standing on the mark, they've got two. You don't need two, boys. And the umpire even said, just one of you. Just one of you, boys. So you're playing with 17 men at that point.
You can move if you're in the protected area, right?
Not a great night for the Port boys in the showdown because they've had the toss. So let's go to Connor Rosey. Wins the toss, yes, clearly going to the right of
Kicking to the city end.
He's Miles Bergman, just bang. Kicks it the wrong way, first bounce. He realises it's been all too late.
He would have got a centre bounce clearance for that, though.
Kane Johnson did that. Kane Johnson did in 2007. He was the captain and picked the direction, and for the first game of the season, kicked it the wrong way. There you go.
Shout out to Kilda, who I reckon he had one of those too.
Take a few.
How'd you go that year?
No good. No good. Thanks, Brennan.
Yeah, it's predictable. Now, I mean, you want to have faith in your leaders, don't you? You want to know that they're trustworthy. You want to know, especially in a sport that trust is important. Just watch the caddy here. Just drops the ball out there. Guess who hops out of the cart? Old Donald Trump. Just goes and plays it, has a look around to see if anybody saw that. Yeah. Goes and plays the ball, hits it up onto the green, rolls back into the bunker.
Fake news. Fake
news. Fake news.
That was.
No import tax on that one.
Jack was a bit like that when I played with him a couple of years ago.
He had the hole in the bottom of the pocket.
All right, boys, we're going to be joined by the champion. That seat is going to be filled in the middle. Lethal joins us next week.
You don't tell enforcers what to do. You've got to work with them. It's brutally and physically demanding. What I would be saying to the umpires' coaches, you coach them to do what we want them to do, not what you want them to do.
Celebrate you, baby. I have to praise you like I should.
Gets me every time. Bucks and Geordies, the click. That was after Brownie's last international trip for Fox. We saw that on a Friday night. So tune in for Friday night if you want to see the boys dancing like that again. It is time to sing the praises, and I'm singing the praises of a young hawk, Kausha Deer. He's only played 4 games this season, but I just think this young kid is going to be absolutely something. He is, I think, further along than what the Hawks would think. His ability to jump at the ball. He's got great footy IQ as well. He's going to be a big player.
He's got some hops, Jack.
Huge hops. And just a little one juker here as well. Jeez. Thank you very much. He's going to be one of the next great key forwards. I love how Kausha Deer goes about it.
Well, I'll go next, and it's an ex-teammate of yours, so I wouldn't mind getting your opinion on him. But I just watched Nick Vlossen over the weekend, and there was some ball down his end, to be honest. But he just positions himself well. He structures that defence. He ends up having 17 intercept possessions, which was an unbelievable effort. Both he and Broad really kept Richmond in the game for a period. But what a star! Never been All-Australian. Surely.
Only once in the squad.
I texted
him.
In the squad.
I texted
no
him.
idea, selectors.
And he wrote it back and then he said, I should be a 5-time All-Australian. So, straight from the horse's mouth.
He's a
very, very good
He's got the jacket
player.
over his shoulder at the moment.
I've got Jared Witts to sing the praises of. Ruckcraft through the roof. Will play his 200th game in 2 weeks. Has built his aerial power around the ground as he's gone along, but an absolute 10 out of 10 character and leader through the roof. So he has been an awesome get for the Gold Coast Suns since arriving up from Collingwood. Just so proud of the way that he has come along and what he's developed into. He should be very proud of his efforts.
I think the Suns think he's an All-Australian ruckman as well.
There you go.
Yes,
what a player. Hey, boys, while I was working hard over in Las Vegas for Tim's fight, I got a chance for a little bit of play. Las Vegas Raiders.
Can't spell Jacob with a capital
boys
J.
invited me down there to their training facility. About to go into training camp. We saw a young Brisbane lad, Lockie Tarsi. There you go, Mark of the Year 2002. There he is, Lockie Tarsi. 155 kegs, the young fella from Brisbane. He's trying out for the Raiders. All part of Raider Nation. I think we'll see him at the MCG in a couple of years' time. So there's Max Crosby, $35 million a year, if you don't mind. Harley Reed just pulls up a bit short of him. So it was a great experience. Thanks to the Raiders. We'll see him in a couple of years at the mighty MCG, hopefully.
Great to have you back, Jonathan. Great to have you here on the couch. And we will see you next week with Lee Matthews on the couch.